What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another video for Path of Exile 2. I know two in a row. We're kind of on a roll here. I'm just very excited. Right before I get into the video, I just want to say, I think Path of Exile 2 is going to end up being the best action RPG that's been released since Path of Exile 1. I mean, there has been some other great games. Like, I think Last Epoch is actually really incredible too if you haven't played that game. Diablo 4, the gameplay is like fun, but there's so many problems with that. The rest of the game, especially Endgame, we talked about in the other video. But for Path of Exile 2, I mean, I'm just so excited. So I'm doing videos about it because I'm really excited about it, and a lot of other people are too. I want to touch on two things that I am most excited about coming into Path of Exile 2, and that is that there's going to be no health on the passive tree. No life nodes on the passive tree. There's like one or two, but we'll talk about that later. And there's going to be a new infinite atlas that you're going to be kind of exploring. And I want to touch on that exploration element of that first. So let me first talk about the no health nodes on the tree. In Path of Exile 1, you have builds that are required to get health. Everybody is required to get health on the passive tree. Even especially characters that are not life stacking characters, strength stacking characters, right? Like if I'm not on the strength side of the tree, then I'm just not getting free health from strength. Because if you don't know, every 2 points of strength gives you 1 life in Path of Exile 1. I don't know if it's going to work the exact same way in Path of Exile 2. I don't think this has been confirmed anywhere. Somebody let me know in the comments if it has been confirmed, how the strength conversion to health will work. Let's assume it's 2 strength equals 1 life. My trickster here has taken 13 health nodes, 13 life nodes. I got to say the right word there. And that is, you know, boosting my life. That is not going to be the same in Path of Exile 2. There are no life nodes to take. So there's a couple of like implications here. Number one, that's a little scary because we're not sure how much life you can actually get on your gear, which is the primary way that you're going to be able to get life. And Jonathan Rogers talks about it right here. Shout out to the boys, the Tavern Talk boys. Let me just roll this clip here.
Which is with life not on the passive tree. The shout out to Kriparian for this one. Are some characters still going to potentially be significantly tankier than others as they are in PoE 1? Yeah. Just to give some more context for the people watching, we're talking about the difference between CI versus Mind Over Matter versus life stack and armor evasion, etc.
Yeah. So I mean, you can still absolutely get life, you know, from gear.
So that's the primary way you're getting life is from gear.
Allow you to get to get tankier is effectively other effects like to do with defenses, right? So, you know, armor evasion and so on. And there's quite a lot.
So that's the answer to that question right there. Is that there's no life on the tree essentially. And you're going to have to get it primarily through defensives on the tree. So, you know, armor, evasion, stacking, those kinds of things. I think arguably you could also try to get other defensive mechanics working for you. Let's say blind, for example. There's a cluster for blind for Path of Exile 1. That's pretty powerful down here. Path of Exile 2, I think, is, of course, going to have blind. We've already seen it on the tree in a couple different places. You could get effective blind. You could also stun enemies. You could freeze enemies. We're going to talk about all that in a second. But there's a pretty massive difference between... There's going to be a big difference in Path of Exile 2 between characters that can stack strength and characters that cannot. Like, I'm only getting about 43 life from my strength right here, right? Because every 2 strength is 1 life. So you divide 86 by 2, it's 43, I think, right? So I'm only getting 43 extra life. If I went to a strength character, I could get way more life. My Slammer Jammer guy here, for example, he's actually even a lower level, so he would have even more life besides this, but he is got 430 strength, so he's going to be getting 215 additional life. So in Path of Exile 2, the strength-based characters, like the Templar, which isn't going to in the game yet, but the Warrior is a big one, and the Mercenary is kind of a dex/strength. They're going to have a chance to get more life just straight up than other characters like the Witch and the Monk, right, and the Ranger. They're going to have a lot less life in general. So what are you going to do on those characters? Well, as Jonathan just said, you're going to have to basically spec into other defensive nodes, things like blind, stunning enemies, knocking down enemies, pinning them to the ground. The Ranger, they showed, had like a pinning ability, which was kind of cool. Extra movement speed for yourself, maybe dodge roll passives where you can actually blink or you get some other bonus for dodge rolling. And Dreamcore actually had a really good video here. We're gonna look at Dreamcore really quickly. So there's the dodge roll at 0.42. There is a node that buffs this. So you can see he's got Bulwark. Dodge roll cannot avoid damage, but you take 30% less damage from hits while dodge rolling. So GGG has invested points in the passive tree for PoE2 that will affect your dodge roll. So maybe that's something that becomes really important. Like maybe it becomes a core part of your defense because again, you can't stack health as a non-strength character, which, you know, most of the characters in the game are non-strength. There's only a few that really are, right? So Leech is another one, 318, I think, on there's on Dreamcore's video here. Fast metabolism, life leech effects are not removed when your unreserved life is filled. This is insane. This was like an ascendancy node in PoE 1, right? So I think for Slayer, right? So that's pretty powerful as well. You might have to invest more points into the tree on those other defensive mechanics, and thankfully you'll be able to, because if we look at the passive tree, I have 16 nodes on my chieftain here that are allocated for life. There's like 5 right there, there's 4 more up here, there's a whole bunch, right? I will not have, I won't be able to do that anymore. So I'll have 16 free nodes. Obviously this doesn't just go 1 for 1 into Path of Exile 2. Just work with me here on this. Like, you're going to have a bunch of extra nodes that you would have spent on life that you can now spend on defense. And Jonathan Rogers does say that they want you to be able to spend points on defense.
That's around modifying those and doing different things with those. I think there is a lot of scope for that kind of thing. And I think it's more obvious to a new player that if you want to be defensive, then go for all this armor or evasion or whatever nodes. Like the whole breakdown of like some X% needs to be life or whatever, I think was confusing before. So effectively now, you know, if you want defensive, be more defensive, allocate those defensive nodes, and you should be doing fine.
Yeah, so he's basically saying they are making room. Like there will be defensive nodes that you can take, and now that we don't need to take the life nodes, we're going to be speccing into that probably a lot more, which is good. I think that's a good direction for the game to go, because a lot of the builds that I used to play, or that I do play in PoE 1, they tend to be pretty glass cannon, because I play softcore and I'm an idiot and I just want to blow things up. But, you know, I don't get that many life nodes. But there's a mandatory amount that you kind of have to get, and that's annoying. So it's nice that they're kind of changing that. I think that's a really, really good direction for them to go. So let me look also at the classes really quickly here. We're going to look at exactly how each class can potentially avoid taking the extra damage. So we're just going to go through Stormcaller, for example.
A master of the elements.
Is really cool. You're going to get this Tempest Caller thing where you're going to trigger an elemental storm when you crit. So one defensive layer for a Stormcaller could be casting cold spells and freezing enemies. And when you do, when you crit with those spells, you'll get an elemental cold storm, which will also slow and chill enemies. So you can kind of stop the damage from coming in that way. Let's say you're doing the Chronomancer. You can, of course, get the time freeze ability, which is so cool. Right? Watch this. She just jumps in the middle and goes whoop, and everybody gets frozen in time. Boom. So that's, again, there's going to be lots of defensive layers, I'm assuming, for the Chronomancer, where you can blink out of danger, you can freeze enemies, which is really, really cool. If you go to the Warbringer, he's got that Jade Heritage ability, this thing right here, which encases you in Jade, which basically stops all damage, but you can't take any action. So it's kind of an interesting little bit of a catch-22 there, but that's, again, another defensive layer that you can use instead of getting health. If we look at the Titan is all about stunning, basically. So this Ascendancy is going to be all about stopping enemies from basically doing anything. Crushing Blows in Path of Exile 2 gives a high chance that you're going to stun it. I think it just reduces their stun threshold, like, massively. So all of your abilities basically on Titan are going to be stunning enemies all the time, which, again, another defensive layer. For the Deadeye, there's a lot of abilities in the Deadeye that just cause you to jump, which is really cool. You're going to see in the footage here, she's going to jump away here with one of her abilities. Boom, there's one there. And it throws down like a cold thing on the ground, chilled ground. There's a bunch of abilities on the Ranger that allow you to jump around, which is really cool. You can also move while firing, which is a defensive layer in and of itself. And if you get Tailwind, which you can get on the Deadeye, you can move faster, a lot more quickly, right? So you're going to have to rely on your mobility as a Ranger, I would say, as a defensive layer. You're going to have to think about it that way, right? To stop yourself from taking damage. For the Pathfinder, it's pretty cool. They've got like vines that you can throw into the ground that are going to slow enemies down. I don't know if it shows it in this footage here, but it's in other footage. But you can like slow and poison enemies with these vines and kind of stop them from moving, and also obviously make them take a bunch of extra damage. So that's going to be a big part of the defensive layer for for Pathfinder, but there's also this incredible little bit that Jonathan talks about here. Sorry. Ooh, that's way too loud.
Running Assault allows her to move much more quickly while firing.
So you can move while firing more quickly. And then there's this line. He doesn't show the tooltip for it, but listen to what he says.
While Relentless Pursuit makes her totally immune to being slowed by enemies.
You're immune to slows as a Pathfinder. That is insane. That is so strong. Being immune to slows. That's a trickster thing right now, but it's incredibly strong. So some really good built-in defense right there for the Pathfinder. When we get to the Witch, you can summon your Hellhound, and he takes 20% of the damage that you would take from hits, which is incredible. So that's a great defensive layer, just having the Hellhound out, which is amazing. And then the Blood Mage is really cool. Gazzy talks about this for a second. I'll get to this in a second, but the Blood Mage is going to have these orbs, right? Hold on, there we go. So the very first Ascendancy node that you get is this Sanguimancy. It gives you life remnants that can spawn on the ground. These are these little orbs, and you can run over them and get healed. Now, Gazzy was kind of concerned because the skill base, it says the skill base cost life equal to mana cost, which means it's not really an advantage, right, in any way. But Gazzy gets to it here at 127.25. So let's listen to what he has to say.
2 Ascendancies is a negative input for the class.
So he's talking about that first Ascendancy node. It's negative.
Right. So okay, well, I'll go into the Blood Mage one at least. So one
Jonathan
thing I should
didn't
mention about that
this is
that
new.
It does allow you to overcap your life by double, which is something.
So you can overcap your life by double by running over these blood orbs that are put on the ground. So that's something that we didn't know before. So it doesn't say it in the tooltip, and it would have been nice for them to say that earlier, but basically as you spawn these orbs, you're going to double your actual maximum HP, is from what I understand there, which is obviously very important for this entire Sanguimancy tree. And then of course you're going to get life leech as well. 10% life leech. You can get energy shield from your equipped body armor as extra maximum life, which is of course not melding, but it's on the tree right now. It's over here. It is melding, so you get 3% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. This is a very similar idea, right? Gain energy from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. So that's really, really powerful. So you're gonna have tanky built-in defensives there as the Blood Mage as well. Oh, sorry. We'll get to the monk here. Whoops, I went backwards. Let's get to the monk. So if you pick the invoker, this guy, he's going to be sending out waves of elements if you crit. So again, very much like the Stormcaller, you could pick a cold skill and send out waves of that cold skill and freeze enemies, which is a way of defending yourself. And then of course, meditate gives you double energy shield,
allowing you to double your energy shield.
I don't really know what that means, if that's just like always active or if it's something you have to constantly keep doing. I'm assuming it's always active, which is just disgusting. So there's a huge defense right there. The Acolyte of Chayula gets insane chaos resistance. 10% to max chaos res, and chaos resistance is doubled. That means you can get up to 85% chaos res just from this guy. There's probably something on the tree that also lets you get that. And then your chaos resistance is doubled. So again, very, very strong against poison damage, any kind of damage over time like that, and then just chaos damage in general. You could basically you could easily run a CI build, or no, not a CI build, so you wouldn't even need a CI build. You could just run a non-CI build and have crazy amounts of chaos res, unlike anybody else in the game, right? So that's very cool to have that kind of bonus as well. He also gets mana leeches instant, so you can keep your spells going. That could be good defensively as well. And then for the Witch Hunter, this is the Merc. He gets this Sork Shield. It stops elemental damage, but you're sacrificing less armor and evasion rating, but you do get defense against elemental damage, which is, again, nobody else gets this, which is really, really cool. And then, of course, you could kind of utilize your grenade combos by, like, stunning enemies multiple times and having more defense that way. The Gemling Legionnaire is really cool. This guy gets maximum resistances, which again, nobody else gets this, so very good defensively. And then he can also stack strength if he wanted to with adaptive capabilities. So the attribute requirement for gems is satisfied by your highest attribute. So you could just stack strength, get the HP bonus, the life bonus from stacking strength, and then your gems, even though they're dexterity gems, your strength is satisfying whatever requirement your dexterity gems have. Now, you would still need a certain amount of dexterity just to wear the armor and the crossbow and stuff, but there's an interesting like thing you could do here, defensively speaking, with the Gemling Legionnaire. He is really, really cool. I suspect a lot of people are going to be going Gemling Legionnaire just because it looks so cool. So those are all the different ascendancies in the way that they can individually defend themselves, given the fact that we're not going to have maximum health on the tree anymore. So again, that is a pretty big change in my opinion, and I think it's going to warp our gameplay like significantly, where you are going to have to adapt to the enemies in front of you and use your skills. Like if you're a monk, you're gonna have to dash around the battlefield and avoid getting hit. If you're one of the range characters like the merc or the ranger or even the witch, you can move while casting, move while shooting. You're gonna have to take advantage of that big time, or else you're gonna be, you're gonna be in big trouble because you just don't have as much maximum health, I think, as you used to. We'll have to see how much max life we can get on our gear, but my suspicion is that we're gonna have less than we used to in PoE 1, and so you're gonna have to use the other tools at your disposal to really make that work, okay? So that's the big thing there. The next thing I wanted to talk about, the last just want to touch on at the end of the video here, is that my second big point is I'm very excited about is the Atlas and being able to explore the Atlas. So let me just go to the end game here with Mark, and he's going to showcase, of course, the Atlas. So this is something that I just think is so incredible, and obviously people are excited about this, but it's more than just having like the Atlas 2.0 right now in the game. Obviously all we have is we go to our hideout, right, and you open your map device and you just slot in a map and you just go, right? Like I go in here, I put in the map, and boom, I'm going. This has absolutely zero immersion in the game, right? There's no immersion at all. I don't even care that I'm going to a Basilica map. I don't even know what that is. And I'm just looking at the modifiers of the map being like, am I going to die? Am I not going to die? Okay, I'm going to activate the map, and boom, I'm going. This new version in PoE 2 has so much like immersion, and it really entices you to explore. There's an actual like Atlas to explore now. This is going to be like a new mini game that we're going to get to play. And part of the enjoyment of PoE 2, I think a big part of enjoying the end game is going to be just exploring the map, just wandering around, opening up one of these towers and seeing what you get. And you get that dopamine hit of like, I'm going to hit the tower, I'm going to open it, and boom, I see that I got some really crazy map. There's this like island over here, let's say, and maybe on that island, it's got the 682% experience bonus or something, like, who knows? You can see maps that you get explored. You can see the corruption on the ground. You can see any extra mechanics that might be over top of the maps. And that is just an incredible experience that the players are going to get to enjoy. This idea of actually exploring a physical space as like a mini game within Path of Exile, that's going to be a ton of fun. Besides just actually running the maps themselves, you're going to just enjoy doing this part of it. I think you're going to enjoy exploring. And of course, you can like brick your maps, and you could have some mistakes made and have to reroute yourself, and that could be very frustrating. I understand that, but just this idea of being able to explore the map is going to be really, really, really fun. And as they begin to add stuff to the map, I think that this could, old League mechanics that are going to be coming back potentially, this is just speculation, but imagine for a second that they introduce League mechanics that they're not slated for PoE 2 right now, but just imagine that if they introduce something like the Alva Temple, it could be a physical space in the game. It could actually just be the physical Alva Temple, and it could be like 8 different maps all in a little zone tied up together like this, right? Obviously this is such a crude drawing. I just did this for fun, but imagine you get this tower over here, you pop this tower, and boom, the entire Alva Temple just reveals itself, and you're like, oh shit, I found the temple, I'm going in, baby, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm just gonna run this mechanic. Or imagine, you hit a tower over here, and or this tower on the left, and it reveals that all these maps right here are infected by an actual abyss, and you can physically see the abyss running through the different maps. There's a quality to that. There's like a tangibility to that we don't have right now in Path of Exile 1. And it's just, you're just going to be excited to open up these towers and start exploring these areas and be like, oh shit, look at this cool thing over here. Look at this cool thing over here. Like, that's going to be amazing. Imagine you open up this tower down here and it reveals two legions that are fighting. They're vying for control over this waystone right here. And you can go in and just mess them up. And you know that there's going to be a cool Legion event in there. But just the idea, I think, behind all this is that you could get excited about how it feels to be mapping in an actual living, breathing world, as opposed to the way that we do it right now, which of course is just me running around, putting in a map into my map device and going into the map. Like, there's just no immersion that way into the actual world. And we're going to get to do that in Path of Exile 2. And just the idea of exploring this world is exciting to me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Those are two things that I'm very excited about for Path of Exile 2. I think that the change to life on the passive tree, is a massive change that is going to completely warp your gameplay experience and cause you to invest into different defensive mechanics, and that's good for the game. And then this exploring of the Atlas is just going to be so incredibly cool. I can't wait to see what GGG does with all the other league mechanics that they're hopefully going to start adding in once the game gets going, and just to see like how they implement those into a living, breathing world. It's going to be so cool. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.